right. Hey, what's up, guys? Today's stream is another Common App essay diagnostic. We have Adarsh, who is bravely sharing his presumably very embarrassing writing with the world. And my hope for you guys who are watching, as I'm kind of figuring out how this actually could turn into a series of things, a series of YouTube videos. I hope for you guys who are watching is that you can kind of see how a reader can kind of respond to essays in a emotional way, but also a technical way, and give you like guided feedback. If I can be of any help to you guys who are getting feedback from your friends, from your family, from your teachers, from your counselors, from your paid tutors, and if this stream gives you any idea of like what kind of feedback you think you really need, I think I've served my purpose here, you know. So I hope I can be of help in that way. Now, Adarsh is on the call here with me. We were speaking for a little bit. We were talking about like how he wants to proceed with the diagnostic. I have not yet read the essay whatsoever. I've also not read his answers to my usual pre-diagnostic reflection questions. So I actually don't know his thoughts on his own essay, and I do not know what the essay even attempting to do. So the reason for this, which is different from my previous stream, the reason for this is that Adarsh really like shared his essay with multiple people, got feedback from a bunch of different people, and some people said they just did not understand it, but some people said it was really good. So he just wants to see if some other person in the world could read the thing and still understand it. Would a generally I feel embarrassed to say this about myself, but would a generally smart person who couldn't read well, understand what I, Adarsh, am trying to convey? So that's kind of the initial test that we're going to go through, and then after we do that, then we'll kind of go back to the general rhythm of the diagnostic of the Common App essay. Now, let me just quickly respond to the chats. Actually, I guess we'll start with Adarsh. Adarsh, you can just say hi if you want, if that's comfortable with you. Want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Hello,
okay,
everyone.
There are some viewers. And we have Janurk, who's... so if you are interested in me looking over your essay, please join the Discord server and check what I've already written publicly in my Discord server. Also, Buzzra is asking about the October 2022 SAT. I almost certainly will do it sometime in the near future. So I will, just not going to commit to a particular date just yet. Okay, now when I start time, I will no longer pay attention whatsoever to the chats. I will be primarily focusing on just Adarsh, whose time this is. So just keep that in mind. I will not be focusing on what you guys are chatting until after the 30-minute session is over. All right, here we go. All right, and now I'm about to get started on the first task, which is, do I even understand what the heck is going on? Okay, so let's go. Starting time now, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that, technicals. That is not gonna count for time. Give me a sec. Why did it crash immediately? Okay, sidecar, please be useful to me again. Sorry about that, Adarsh. I'm just going to bring this back to the screen. Okay, and you should be able to see my screen. I think there's no problems with video or audio. Just double checking that nothing went wrong in the midst of all that. Yeah, you should. And Adarsh, can you just confirm you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay, then we can continue. Restarting time. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Parallel versus 105. Parallel I wonder what the. It's a hard metaphor for me personally, like, because this is two different things. You can be parallel. You can also be. You can have a deep connection. There's two metaphors going on simultaneously, so it's already a little overwhelming for me. We'll see what happens though. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Oh, okay. We're gonna do an extended metaphor. Here we go. Lightly charged hydrogen rip. My mother and my aunt. Okay, I like the honesty here because we're going straight to drama, and we're being explicit about it. We're actually not being scared about the fact that not everything in life is perfect. Living together with my uncle. Whew, quarrels, okay? I can imagine some of those. Words are spoken, regretted. I love the impersonal nature of this. The depersonalized way of saying this, like actually, it's such an understatement. It's actually pretty easy to imagine how it's actually much more heated than that. At the moment, I would bribe my brother to come stay in my room. I kind of word choice, like how exactly with a horror movie. I think when you use the word with, it's clear that the bribe is the actual horror movie itself. Because if you don't say with, then it's like it's somewhat a little bit vague. Like maybe you actually did bribe him to watch a horror movie. Like maybe you paid him money. It's like the possibility still remains. Lisa 20 are receptive outside. Now, if I'm assuming Lisa is a character, but the formatting, the italicizing is actually confusing. Formatting.
Yeah, it's a character.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. And with movies tends to be italicized, but you don't italicize and quotations at the same time. It really depends on, but yeah, basically, typically for complete works like movies, you use italics. But not together with quotations. My ears would still be receptive to house conversation after being through a long night. After I don't know what after a long night. Just right now, I'm just gonna get rid of it. After a long night disagreement, being the eldest son, I had to become the oxygen. Ooh. Although I wonder if. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just thinking about it, okay? I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying this is good. I'm just unsure that this is the best place for this sentence to be. I'm thinking about the sequence of the sentence because I like that the oxygen comes out later, like after the hydrogen, and because then that creates a bit of tension, like I'm waiting on the oxygen. But I didn't expect the oxygen to be you. So, I don't know, okay? It does, it's also a little self-congratulatory, right? Like, you are the oxygen. It's like, so now I'm like, I have my sort of skepticism brow cocked, where I'm kind of like, really? Your mom and your aunt, you're the negotiator? Like, you? The youngin, okay, so like I need to now that's a high bar, because family disagreements, they run deep. They can be pretty painful. They can be pretty intense. So I'm just curious. Hydrogen bonding, decreased density, Rama stones, family miracle, science. It's kind of funny. Okay, funny, sort of like. Like kind of funny, like it's a funny disappointment, right? It's it's kind of underwhelming. By this time, the cursor stationary, blankly, physics. It's also like I kind of with the 4:4 error. I do like this because maybe it's like a reference to because. Poorly curated internet experiences, poorly managed internet environments, with SEO and Google and everything's being hyper optimized. You don't really run into that anymore unless you're not using Google as your primary search engine, and you're using like a local search engine. And I don't know. So if you include like the name of a thing that's not a Google search, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it because I know how buggy sometimes the Korean web experience can be. So I'm just thinking about that. But anyway, I'm going to move on. I don't want to delve on that too much. Check and mate situation. Is check and mate a separate phrase? Let me just double check this. Is this a separate phrase? It is a separate phrase. Okay. Okay, here we go. That's actually kind of quirkily interesting. But I wonder why this isn't the same essay, I wonder why, because I feel disconnected a little from this. Like this is actually a wild shift into scientific inquiry. It's just like this wild connection that's not connected to this. So this can either be crazy successful because the shifts just get wilder and wilder, or it's just gonna just veer off track and we're gonna have no idea what you're talking about. All right, let's keep going. So we're kind of doing like a quasi poetic meditation on water itself. So then I actually think, I wonder if it actually would improve without the bond angle at the beginning. Because I was so primed to think about the bond angle. And this is like so many metaphors happening at once. But like, okay, I'm going to just keep going because you have this interesting, let's just use the word vessel, pun intended. You have an interesting vessel for your ideas, which is the different chemical properties, the physical properties of water. I will make a decision on what I think about whether it's too much or not too much. We'll see. I'm just a little hesitant at the moment. Actor. In what what kinds of like like plays, what kinds of drama, like what kinds of like, is it for plays, I assume? Is it Western? Is it Indian styled? I'm assuming. Look at this. I didn't remember. Is it traditional? Is it modern? Traditional dance, and even auditioned. I wasn't just transition between. I was avoiding the warmth of being in my comfort zone. LinkedIn network calls conquered by fears. That's actually it's a little frenetic because you're hinging on this idea of avoiding the comfort zone, and then now you're taking that as your license to just like go crazy with this. Okay. You know what I feel? I feel you're abounding in ideas. And that's good. That's much better than the opposite problem of being dry. Just to continue with that pun. I'm gonna move on for now. A universal solvent? Oh, you became a meme at your school. Oh, maybe the all boys school detail. This detail might be better over here because that kind of explains why. So, okay. So if you stick that there, it might make it less difficult to absorb, to digest in the moment. Like I can figure out why they're giving you those roles. That's actually kind of. Oh, they were bullying you. They were actually bullying you. But I wonder what the. Like, this metaphor doesn't make sense to me. This metaphor does not
The
make sense.
universe.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a little puzzled here. I'm just getting puzzled. Because I was like, if you say universal solvent for the female roles, for some reason, like I was expecting like a pivot to like feminism. That's what I was expecting. Like just like the wording itself made it seem like you were gonna dissolve female roles, which what? Like I don't get it. So I'm confused by that part. But like I like this story. I like this little story packed into 4 lines. I have no conception of. I mean, I guess any. Actually, you know what? I think any good admissions officer will immediately just know rupees. Right. So that's. Then they would just be able to do that quick search, and then they would have the reaction. Okay, cool. You made $300 off of stationery. Cool. And this is profit. I would, if you really mean profit, because a lot of people who don't know business don't. When they mean profit, they actually don't mean profit. They mean revenue. If you mean profit, you might want to say the word net or something to actually clarify. You know the terminology. So
Gotcha.
net, right?
Yeah.
So something like that. Okay. Just because profit can be misused and abused. Wait, your mother actually mentions your mother calls you the mother. What? Like what? This is not just a metaphor that you have in your own head. This is a metaphor that you've actually talked about with you and your mother before. So I'm actually a little distracted by this, which means if your mother did call you a camel before, I actually suspect that the bond. I like the word. I like dude. Your writing is so hard for me to diagnose because there's problems, but the problems for me are inextricably like connected to why this essay is charming. So it's like
That is, that's the one of the reasons like a lot of reviewers give me like they're not able to edit the essay because once you cut out or add anything, the essay actually breaks down. Like,
yeah. It's very charming. It's very charming. And nothing has to be. In fact, if we make an overly perfect narrative and if you don't have, I think if we take out all the rough edges, then actually the soul of this essay is going to get sucked out. I don't think it's a. It's not a good way to move forward, but then the thing is that this is not something I can give you an easy diagnostic for, because what this comes down to is actually at the sentence by sentence by sentence level. This is like a real writer's task. Like, how can I still keep it crazy? How can I still keep it like abounding in energy and ideas, sort of zany, honestly? You're kind of like funny and a little hints and you're a little ironic even about sort of the suffering in your life and in your family's life, and you're sort of like, and you're a little frenetic, maybe in real life you're also a little spastic. I don't know, but like we get all of that. So how do we keep that but still make it, better than today, right? Like, how do we make it better? Because it can always be better. The writer's task is never really done, but. Unlike with other essays where I would, it'd be easy to just sort of restructure this, the narrative to be like, hey, just put these paragraphs in this order and now everything will make sense. For you, you already have things that make sense. So it's really just sentence by sentence. Do I keep this or do I cut this? And if I keep this, do I keep it exactly as it is or do I tweak it? And then if I tweak it this way, then what's like what are the effects that are going to run down or on the next paragraph or the bottom of this paragraph and then the next paragraph after that? Like how do these, because a piece of writing is like an ecosystem. Everything there are trophic cascades really, where something like bounces off other things, and things are dependent on each other. So you need to be able to kind of see the connections there, and then make those sacrifices intentionally. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. But let's start with the first question. Okay, the first question for you was do I understand it? I definitely understand it. Okay, I understand it. some metaphors a little bit of a stretch. Some metaphor, that one metaphor of you being the oxygen for your two parents, not your two parents, your two adult family members. That was like a little sketch. I'm like,
Yeah.
a little cringe, a little like, like you. It was you. Like, okay, you're self congratulation, a little bit of cringe. But some of the metaphors for me, they were a little like imperfect. But the overall thrust of everything is like, we're not focusing on the one metaphor. We're talking about different properties, and we're using this as sort of a template to bounce off on different ideas that kind of unite you, even though these ideas are not united whatsoever. That's totally,
Yeah.
I can totally get that, and I like it's a creative approach to the essay. So I think it will stand out. So then I'll go back towards my general diagnostic of like, do you sound minimally educated? Like, grammar conventions, you have word choices that sound like you actually read things, you actually like studied at school. Oh yeah, you passed that bar. Number two, are you believable? Do I believe that you didn't pay somebody to just write this thing for you? That you're not some kid that kind of fucked around in school and then
Yeah.
just suddenly like your parents' moralistic lessons were all just sort of like you just sort of parroting them on the page. This is not actually what you believe. Do you pass the bar of believability? I think you do. I think you are believable. Last thing, are you memorable? Do you leave an impression of somebody that like maybe like a couple like I'm a busy college admissions officer. I read like I'm reading like multiple essays by like 5 different kids in one afternoon, and I'm just like, will I still remember you by the end of the afternoon? I think I would. So I think you pass all 3 of those bars. At this point, you're in a very good position. That means, I think at this point, again, I'm not an admissions because I'm not a specialist in admissions. So I do want everyone to know this. But like, even though I'm not a specialist in admissions, when I read this, I feel the energy, and I think that's very, very successful. And now it's just a matter of tweaking for little wins of clarity, little wins of like pathos, little wins of like irony, little wins of like just like tweaking to make it a little better, a little bit more perfect, a little bit more imperfectly perfect. Just like a little bit more of that raw energy that you're bringing, like just like expressing more of that. That's my overall diagnostic. This is me without me even hearing what you were aiming to do with it. Let me just hear your response to everything I said so far.
Sure. So I love your review, like the responses, and I kind of wanted the same response. Like when I was writing, I was having those same responses in mind as what I want the reader to assume. But I have one doubt. Do you think it's too nerdy? Because I'm talking about bond angles and I'm talking about all those things. But and admission officers are usually not of science background. So do you think they will be able to grasp the core of it even without that?
Yes. Look, there's like a way of thinking about this. Adarsh, you do not want to go to a university where where they don't hire admissions officers who know how to read at this level. Like, do not go to that university. Like you should set the level of intelligence, okay, the bare minimum bar for your universities as well. So if they can't read this and understand this, they fail your test. It's not the other way around, okay? It's not you failing their test, like you failing to dumb down enough. That's not the right way of thinking about this, okay? Like they have like the people at these universities who are many of them are younger than me, and many of them are more fresh or like somewhere in their early 20s to like late 20s, and they're like you. They went to Grinnell, right? Or they went to the school that you were talking about, right? They actually graduated from that school, and then they ended up in this as a job because they just like it or whatever, right? Like they're bright, educated people. They're going to even if they don't know, like. I didn't know the conversion for the rupee. I had no idea how to scale that. Okay, everyone knows how to do a quick Google search, So you don't have to worry about those things. And if you were applying to a school where you got rejected, quote unquote, because they didn't understand this, I would say you actually didn't. You actually, you actually, you actually kind of like narrowly escaped a very bad situation. Good job. Like that's good that you didn't get to that school. So don't
That's
worry so
true.
much about that.
Okay. And which part of the whole essay do you think was the most boring?
What's the worst, most poignant? You said
Most boring type, like
most boring.
that,
Okay. Well, actually, I can answer that first. Let me just quickly reskim. Oh, dude, we're really just kind of we're dealing with peanuts at this point. We're actually almost we're at the level of like sentences. Like for example, jeez. Even this, I'm thinking of trying to make. I'm thinking of this being kind of slow, but even then, actually, I like the sort of broad, understated sort of vagueness of it. Also, maybe this part it feels a little sluggish in the sense that we're we're gesturing towards a lesson, and this is actually your literal first paragraph. So not literal. It's actually not literally your first paragraph. It's literally your second paragraph. But anyway, but it like how this lesson's vague, but it doesn't give the oomph of the first paragraph of the first main body paragraph. Like that we're looking at. So this kind of like a little bit deflating. It's just a sort of it's broad in general. I actually thought that we're gonna keep going into this idea because it's so broad.
Actually, I wanted to make the whole essay either about my theater roles or about my first essay, but I thought like they're pretty bored of reading the whole sad stories. I want to mix stories in between, so it kind of seems interesting, like to them.
Yeah, I think it's success. You're definitely succeeding in the sort of like staying interesting. I wouldn't say that that's the main problem. Like for you, again, my diagnostic is not very exact because the thing is now we're talking about real like minor at the micro level, like actual editing decisions. Okay, like here, I only have one broad idea that I can pass by you, but before I do that, like there's only one broad issue that I see. Everything else is pretty much just like move by move by move. Are you making the best move at this? Are you making the best move possible at this level, at this step? I mean, right? So at this sentence, is this the best possible sentence, right? It is
Yeah.
pretty much at the micro level because you've clearly thought about this quite a bit. So you're in the luxury of being able to think about this. But the one broad thing I would talk about is the framing of the introduction and the conclusion to make it a little less surprising that we're gonna keep sort of like breaking off from the initial image. And we're gonna like kind of explore multiple, like a sort of like a multi-fractal sort of view of yourself. Like over here, I'm not set up well enough for it, so I kind of I stumble here. I'm like, what the heck is happening? Like and then I realize finally by by like the middle of this where my eyes are just sort of jumping around, like, oh, we're really just gonna go all over the place here now, right? And it's not good for
Yeah.
your reader to understand that all the way back here. I think it is better to just set them up a little bit so that they know what's happening. So we could talk about the framing, but and if once the framing is there, actually, I would strongly recommend you actually, kind of test, pilot the new version on some other people and see what happens when they don't know the framing and see if they catch the framing right away. See if they understand the framing
Yeah.
because it is a little crazy. It's like it's not easy for most people to just, especially probably for peers who haven't done a lot of essay reading. Like they're not going to necessarily catch on to it very easily. So a little bit more padding there might help. And I would say my most honestly, this could be the first paragraph. You could even literally just switch the conclusion and the introduction, and that could be clearer. Like seriously.
Yeah.
Now, like now, I think if you literally just switch it, I still think there'll be a little bit of vagueness. But I'm starting to. My gut feeling says, with such a resemblance to water, my mother is certain that I was a camel. So like this thing, if you could like set up an actual dialogue between your mother and then your mom says you're a camel, and then it says, but I don't really like camel. I prefer
Yeah.
I prefer water, just water itself, water in all its glory, and then just end it at that. And then when we say water in all its glory, or water in all its wateriness, and like just like kind of set up the fact that you're gonna touch on different aspects of water, right? You sort of open it up. If you say Aquaman, that actually narrows it down to a particular image, which makes it's punchy, it makes it interesting, but then it also doesn't really set up the rest of the paragraphs. So
Yeah.
if we can have an equally punchy, but something that hints at like the different characteristics of water, just say something like that, then we're kind of open and receptive to that. Then when I see this transition here, I won't get so lost. Like, do you remember this? Me being like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Science
I
all of
remember.
a sudden? Like that took me a while to get out of that hole. I was like, what is going on, right? So
And that's what I'm curious, like, how do I connect these two paragraphs? Like, these two are totally different. So how do I make the transition smooth? Like, it's pretty hard, right?
yeah, let's look at this. I mean, along with I'm just going to try to write something really quick that makes some sense to me, because I'm not a chemistry expert. So apart from its structure, its composition, right, this transition to this, but then it's just this insane transition. Again, I don't want to edit this to make it so perfect that it's boring. But like, apart from its composition, water. So
And one more thing, while you are editing this, like,
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
pretty sure that the admission officers won't be knowing about Ramayana or Lord Rama. Uh, did you know about these two things? And if you didn't, were you able to guess that something related to religion and how I'm connecting to science?
Okay, when you say this, I have no idea what you're looking at because your screen is blank. So can you highlight the part that you're talking about on this
Yeah,
page?
I'm saying like this particular part where I say Lord Rama. Um, and when I say this epic tale of Ramayana, these two are the religious texts.
Yeah.
So admission officers won't be knowing about it. So do you think they will be able to get the sense what I'm trying to convey here?
Well, so that's not guaranteed that they won't know about it. I knew about it, for example. So I didn't know specifically the story of Lord Rama, but I did know that the Ramayana is a religious epic in Sanskrit. So it's not guaranteed they won't know about it. It's not likely that they will know about it in much detail, but the thing is over here, grammatically, stones floating, miracle, religious, all of these words are coming out at once. So no, there's no doubt about it. I completely understand what this is. So it's not, yeah. It's you're good there. You're good there. Trust the reader. Trust the reader. Okay, give them credit.
Okay.
So don't worry so much about that. Any other parts like that? I can just kind of. It seems like you need to do a lot of alleviating of some like anxiety there. So any other parts where you're like, man, I don't know if people will understand?
No, I think rest part. I think it should be good.
Yeah, I would say the two critical things you need to work on is the introduction. I mean, the conclusion I was only mentioning because it could be reused as the introduction, okay? But really it's this introduction, this parallel and deep.
Yeah,
Like it's like
just for
hard to
that.
visualize. I have no idea what a parallel and deep connection is that is simultaneously an angle, right? It's like extremely confusing to visualize. Uh, but then like way deep, but the deep metaphor doesn't really get at the, it makes you sound like you're a separate thing that's like alongside the water, and that also doesn't help. Like I want you to be the water, right? Because that's what you are for the rest of the essay. So this really is extremely confusing for the rest of the essay. It doesn't really help the essay. It actually harms it. It makes it harder for me to get myself through this. And then once you figure, it's really just this part and then this part, these two together are gonna really be, they have to work together to help the reader like catch on to what happens, unless you're comfortable giving the reader the same experience you gave me. Okay, the experience you gave me was a moment of bewilderment. I was like, the hell is going on? Right? If you are okay
Yeah.
giving a moment of bewilderment to your reader, then you know, you better know you're taking that gamble. Okay, but I
Yeah.
think it's not necessary to give that moment of bewilderment if you can just craft a metaphor. And it seems like you're good at metaphors. You know, you've thought of lots of metaphors in your life. So I feel like if you
Yeah.
just make a candidate list of like 12 different metaphors that would actually work, and then just choose the one that seems the best, you know, that might be better. Okay, something that more that captures the multi interesting properties of water, right? Just like all the different facets of water. You know, something that hints at how water is itself a universe of its own, a world to itself. You know, it's a thing. It's not as simple as we think, right? Whatever. I don't know what it is, but like think of like a metaphor like that kind of hints at that, and then you become the water, and then find some way of keeping that metaphor going, especially at this very critical first transition. That first transition
Yeah.
away from the initial story is gonna be the thing that makes everything flow. Okay, that experience of
And
bewilderment here is not an ideal experience.
do you think I should change the this particular second story with the third story, like bring third story up and the second story down to make the transition smooth? Because it's like first it's drama, then it's science, and it's again drama. So should I bring drama up and push science back?
Science and drama, you said? And drama. I don't know about the sequence. I'm pretty happy with the sequence of social emotional content over here, and then religious intellectual content over here, and then um, creative ambitiousness content over here, and then like kind of cheeky personality content here. I'm okay with the sequencing of it, so I wouldn't say that's necessarily that. It's just if you just nail this transition, I don't think the actual sequencing of the issues is really a problem. You know what I mean? You wanna start with like as a general rule, okay, as a general rule, you want out of your 4 paragraphs, you want your second best idea. Like you want to have a really strong first impression, but you do want to have an even stronger last impression. So, you know,
Yeah.
if that helps, you can that might change the way you sequence things. But I would say
Do
this
you think
is
that's doing it right now? Like do you think the last part is more banger than the first part?
this is more of a banger than what than the first.
Than the first in the beginning, yeah.
Ooh, that's more. What do you think? Right now we're playing with a house of cards. It's it's very small tweaks that it's gonna make all the difference. Well, yes, because what the nice thing about the first one is that it does commit to a very clear and obvious characteristic of H2O of water, right? And everyone knows what
Yeah.
that water is H2O. So it starts us off on an easy image, Um, and it ends a little cheesy, and cheesy and
Okay.
maybe a little cringe, maybe a little cringe. So I would not recommend it to be the last one. I would not make this the last one.
Right.
But
And
the only
um,
problem with this one is that it is a little puzzling that you're dissolving things, and now you're. So I don't understand the dissolving. So we need to fix that somehow, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, but like it's interesting. It's interesting that people made fun of you, and if you can make it a little bit more poignant by instead of like make like though friends thought it might disturb me. This meme page was actually initially a little like malicious, right? So if you can kind of set up the malice a little bit, you know, that people are actually trying to bring you down a little, you know, and be honest about it without over dramatizing it, right? If you can actually just kind of you can probably get rid of this bit, forgetting that it is unconventional. Of course, how do you forget that? That's insane. You're not going to forget, but they did make fun of you, right? So
Yeah.
in fact, be as matter of fact about it as you are over here. You know, you are pretty matter of fact about these things over here. Be as matter of fact. Yeah, I got bullied. Yeah, just keep that tone.
Okay.
You know, just yeah, I got bullied. It happened. Right? Just but like
Uh,
set that up, make it a little bit more poignant. It could be a pretty. I think it's a good ending. It's a good one to end on. It's a good
that's
one
good.
to end on. You know.
And
All right. Well, that's my diagnostic,
yeah.
dude. Not what I was
Thank you so
expecting,
much.
really. Not what I was. Not what I was thinking. Any lingering final questions? My biggest no, I will share my opinion on this, my final opinion on this after I deal with any lingering questions.
No, I think I'm good. And I just have this one more. The one you said in the beginning, like the end starting is not clear. I have one more starting, like which relates to bond angle better. So, um, just a sec. Let me paste it. Here it is. It's in the yeah.
Maybe it's just because my chemistry knowledge is just not up there, but I don't like your bonding with it being parallel because it makes it sound like you are not water. But for me, when I see this, but I guess not these. Only is it in this one that you are directly water. Huh. The sort of equation of you with water doesn't actually even clearly occur now that I think about it. Because this is an actual scientific property of water that you use to come to this realization. It's not actually about you. Whereas you are the oxygen in this case. You're not the water. Uh, so maybe we don't need a perfect metaphor. But here you are also water in this one. So you are water in 2 out of 4.
Yeah.
So that's also a little imperfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be interesting enough for me to keep reading without getting confused and like lost. I would just say this is just extremely confusing. This remains a confusing
Okay.
metaphor
That's good.
for me.
That's
Okay. So
thank you so much.
can you just I actually I made a lot of comments on a lot of different sections. I do have in my head a priority like list. Like I do have a pretty clear sense of what's more high priority and what's lower priority. But I want to know how you prioritized and how you organized everything I said so far. Just in your own words, what's your summary of takeaways like
So yeah.
for this essay?
So I would, for my particular summary, I would say that I need to work on the second para's statement, like a topic statement of the second para the most. I need to make that transition smooth. It's pretty hard right now. And other than that, I think I need to work on these beginning and the ending, like both of them. I think they are pretty short as well. Like I could expand on them a little, and I could work on the beginning and the ending part. So those were the two major things I think I take.
Yeah, I would be a little disappointed if you made the ending like a long, like 9, 10 line sort
No,
of
no, no. Like,
conventional thing.
yeah.
But like you just sort of like ending on an image and just be like, mic drop, whatever, I'm done. I actually think it fits because you're just abounding in ideas. So I think that makes sense. It is getting very late though, and I have another class to get to, so I will have to go. But I'm glad to hear that summary. And your prioritization is, I basically agree with it. Besides that, just go back and pay attention to all the parts where I actually couldn't understand the metaphor, and just decide. Do you want to keep it or do you want to make it a little easier? You want to make, you want to like, or maybe you just need to tune it a little bit so it connects a little bit more clearly. And if you just do that kind of tuning work, it'll make, I think, that's really the work that's left to you. The big picture is all good. Okay, I understand the big picture, and I feel a lot of energy bouncing off the page. So that's I think a really good start. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. It really helps.
Cool. Adarsh, thanks for sharing that. And to everyone who was watching, I hope that was helpful. This went a little longer than I expected, so I do have to go. So I won't be able to take any questions. Guys, I'll see you in the Discord server if you have questions. Vic style, for example, it seems like you do have questions. Jump into the Discord server, and then you can see what I've written about the application essays and whatnot over there. All right. Peace out, guys.